Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hello. Welcome to the Erudition Network. In the Erudition Network Black History Interactive Session. My name is Eddie Phillips. I am the host of that session every Thursday. Glad to be here tonight. I will, full disclosure, let you all know I'm not feeling the best. In a lot of pain, but I am here tonight because we wanted to do these shows, these episodes with my sons, and I was going to possibly push this off, but my son said he wanted to do it, so we are here tonight to make sure that we go over this. I hope that everybody can hear me well, and as we go through this, I'm not going to belabor long. We're starting a little bit later than I would have hoped. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my son, Sean Anthony, on.
Hello, everybody.
All right. So, Sean Anthony, what we're talking about tonight is something that I talked with your older brother with last week. Something that I think that is important to talk about, and we see it a lot in the media and the news. And the misrepresentation and misreporting of the relationship in our culture. Before I go further, let me put this banner on here because I'm bad at not having it on, and I want to make sure we have that. That's our banner for any donation that you would like to make to the Erudition Network in regard to any of the programs that we have on. Anything and everything that you donate will be greatly appreciated and used for the programs that we put on. So please feel free to use our Cash App. Very simple. All you have to do is go on Cash App and type in the Erudition Network, and it should come up, and you can send whatever you would like to send to us. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Earlier, my mic was seeming as if it was kind of mute, so I wanted to make sure. All right. So tonight, I want to talk about this part 2 episode, Black Fathers and Sons, and the complicated history of that. See, your mother is here. Thank you, Tina, for joining us. Sean Anthony, sounds like your mic may need to be adjusted a little bit.
Yeah, probably. By the sounds of it, it's a little bit off. Kind of ran up in here and put all this together. Had to be.
Just make sure that it's selected. That's the biggest issue. Go to the settings and make sure it's selected. You selected the right mic. You sound better when you're closer. So maybe you just were a little bit too far back.
Yeah, possibly.
All right, so I want to talk about some of these things, and I want to bring up the similar to what me and Teddy talked about last week, because I think those topics are things that we still need to cover. And I want to get your take on top as we go through them, okay?
All right.
So I'm going to share this.
Yo, Jay, what's going on?
Okay, give me one moment. There we go. Sorry, no, that's dead air time, and that's never good. But I wanted to make sure we got that on there. All right, so here are the topics um, that I kind of typed out on Black fatherhood, right? And I want you, as we talked last week, to tell me, and this is not an all-inclusive list, and this is not something that um, you know is in order. It could be any of these
Yeah,
things.
I get it. But so in other words, I get the ability to jump off a topic if it's not on here. But at the same time, it does cover most of the problems. So I don't see so I don't think I have to stray too far from it. Especially the drugs problem.
So I want you to let's talk about white male supremacy, racism. How important that, you know what, before we even do that, let me ask you a question. Give me your idea. We'll do a son first because that's easier because you are a son. On what you think the interaction, a positive interaction, should be between a Black son and a Black father.
The positive interaction between a Black son and a Black father would be complete and utter mutual understanding. In other words, not really the stuff you see in movies where the son is trying to be like, the borders between race no longer exist. Their heritage no longer is important and all that. Because the thing about it is, a Black son as well as a Black father should go ahead and understand that their heritage, their skin color, pretty much everything about them is incredibly important because of the way they grew up. So I think a interaction between a Black father and a Black son that would be perfect, or at least acceptable, in my opinion, would be if if both of them are understanding of each other's past, the failures, and understand what's going on in the Black community. So in other words, as long as the son is able to look at the problems in the world and realize what is going on in their own community, then they should be able to go ahead and look at it and be like, well, my father is here. He's aware of his surroundings. He's not straying away from the community entirely and living off in his own world and acting like we're not people of color. As long as they acknowledge that their difference as well as the heritage and the problems in their own community, I think that would be a perfect Black family right there. Because as much as the father wants, they need to understand that the father of that son may have not grown up with a father themselves, or may have not understood what exactly everything was around them. So as long as they're able to address that, then yes, it would be a perfect fit. It would be a perfect family.
Okay, that's a good point. So you kind of make the same statement that your brother made last week, that there should be some kind of communication and understanding, and some kind of mutual understanding to realize that maybe the father doesn't know as everything, because they may not have had a positive father and son experience as they grew up. And so being open to that communication is important. Hey, I just wanted to make sure get your idea on that, because here's the thing: every son has to one day become a father. You'll definitely become an older man.
And I can tell you that the bloodline probably ain't going to end with me.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So you have to put work into making sure that it's positive. So let's go back to that list. I don't know why I did it that way. Here we go. And so, white supremacy. How do you think white supremacy affects um, and racism, not just white supremacy? Because I actually added that just racism, period. Because there could be racism against you by people in your own culture and community.
And
How do
that's
you
what we be
think?
seeing a lot.
How do you think? How much do you think that that plays into the perception of black fathers and sons in their relationship?
Well, I think that racism is a very big problem in the black community, e- especially in parenthood, because black fathers often think, well, because depending on their marriage, like for instance, if a black father has married a white person or a person of different race, then they start thinking, well, now I should now I don't know what to do, and then they start diverting off of the thing because they're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, because what happens is nobody ever thinks about what happens when the black father hates his own race, because they were taught in school that yeah, you're not all that. When they start thinking, well, I'm not that good, and they start hating their own race, they start eventually hating themselves, and then as a result, they start trying to either distance themselves like other fathers in the black community, or they go and try to prove themselves to um, white supremacists, because they're like, oh, I'm not like them, and that's always what happens. There's always got to be a class system where somebody is and the other. Somebody is like that black guy you saw over at the store. I'm a black person who who runs the store, so I'm higher than them, and so I'm better. And then there's another person who's like, well, I'm the manager, so I'm better than you. And then we go up and up. And then the thing about it is, as we go up, people start looking down on the others in their community. And then when they look at their sons and stuff, they go, so how, who are you? And when they look at the skin color or the personality of their child, they start going like, you're the exact thing I hate. And then they start distancing themselves. And they start going like, well, other people in the black community completely abandon their children, so I'm not going to be there for you.
How do you think that that supremacy and racism plays into the relationship? But those are good points that you just made. Outstanding points that you just made. I agree that crab in the barrel mentality is huge within communities of color. But let me ask you this other question. It's a little different than what I asked Teddy last week. How do you think that that supremacy racism plays into the instruction of, and it kind of goes along with what a part on this list: bad school teachers and discouraging mentors? How much do you think that that supremacy plays into the feelings and thoughts of black sons who go to school and are being taught that they are a problem, that
Now,
they are too aggressive, or they're too ignorant, or they many different things are thrown at them? How do you think that a father's interaction with his son dealing with things like that, do you think that, what do you think that could possibly change? Do you think it could change anything, make that son feel more confident? I think you froze. So I think think we froze on Sean Anthony for a moment. I don't know why. But until he comes back on, until we, all right, there you go. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, some technical difficulties hit me real hard.
Did you hear my question?
Yeah, I heard. And to be honest, the way that it does not affect the sons well at all. Because the thing about it is, if you don't understand, if you are influenced by racism, even at a young age, that sits with you at a base level, because you have to have something to build off of when you're a child. You need some sort of building block. So when racism is introduced, that's your building block. That is what you build off of, because now you understand that people have viewed you as nothing for centuries. Now you have to somehow build off of that and reach a higher plane of being over the stereotype. So as a result, the black son is then trying to build off of their own assumptions. But the thing about it is, whenever they start thinking of their achievements, when they start thinking of all this stuff, that racism is still there, and it slowly pollutes all the other thoughts and all the other achievements, because a black person having a building block of racism built off of it, the son starts having what we would call probably an identity crisis, because they'll start thinking, even this isn't good enough for them to see me like I want them to see me. Even this isn't good enough for them. Even this isn't good enough. And then no matter what standard they reach, they think, I'm not good enough at all. And then they start looking towards the father. And when if the father has been polluted themselves with racism, now they have no one to turn to, and now they go with the same thought that the father has. I hate this. I hate my color. I hate my heritage. I hate all of this. And then they start destroying themselves from the inside out until there's nothing left of them.
Great point. Great point. Teddy, your mother said, be mindful understanding of what makes you make decisions based upon your past. It's a good point. Talked about that. They set unrealistic expectations on the child if they present to instill the more desirable trait, causing the child to set the distance or conform. The crabs in the barrel mentality has generational consequences, and it is showing the generational consequences. I will tell you that even on the mental health side, men, and this is crazy, have more mental health issues than women, and some of them are environmental. When you look at the environment that you place your son in, dealing with racism, dealing with foolery, dealing with all of these things that are out here, you start to see that there is definitely a collective problem, and it is heavy in the Black community, right? And then we add in the tropes that are presented to black boys by Black fathers, right? Men are not supposed to be emotional. Men are not supposed to be loving. Men are not supposed to be caring. Men are not supposed to be kind. Men are supposed to be
want
tough.
to have the same type of parenthood and the same type of parent kin relationship that they see in movies, where the parent is emotional, where the parent is always there and always inspiring. But then everybody's like, men aren't supposed to cry, women aren't supposed to do hard work or labor. And then we start putting all these but you're not supposed to, and then we get farther off from, oh, the ideal is this, but we want this in reality.
Well, let's that too. And then the characteristic of you see right now, let's go to that second one, that focus on money. So we are living in a society right now that a lot of men identify their manhood by what they wear, what colognes, watches, jewelry, rings, cars, different things that they drive. They use that as their status. Um, and I will tell you from a father side of it, when you make your status about material, right? About the things that you have and things that the cars and things that you have, that can send a very bad message to your son, because that teaches him what do you if I'm so focused on possessions, what does that teach you?
Well, it teaches me that what I possess is everything.
And that's a worship, right? You start to learn how to worship money, wealth, and what you have, and not use it for what it's supposed to be used for. And I want you to disagree with me if you disagree with what I'm about to say here. I believe that a father should teach his son to focus on money in relation to how he uses it to provide for his family. In other words, I go to work, I do what I got to do so that I can take care of my children, my wife, my family. And I believe that that being a positive way of doing it, because you teach them that work, that money is a result of hard work, what you do, and your work ethic.
Well, I agree with it for the most part. However, I disagree with it a little bit, because the thing about it is, a while ago I was for the last assignment in my class for my discussion. They wanted me and a bunch of other people in my class to answer, do you work to live or do you live to work? And then a lot of people said, for the most part, that they work to live. And then some people would say that they live to work, because of the fact that they wanted to have a job that gave them satisfaction, and that they wanted to have pretty much they wanted to have a monetary amount for all the hard work they did. However, I don't believe in that to be the case. I'm more the person who's on the bench with both, because I do want to I want to work to live, but I also want to live to work, because the thing about it is, I want to be able to have a job that satisfies me, that I can go ahead and be like, this is my reward for all my stuff. However, it feels like I barely worked at all. Because the thing about it is, even if somebody looks and says, this is for my family, this is for everything, the thing is, slowly but surely, it'll start eating away at them, and they'll be like, well, this job doesn't really make me too happy anymore. It's just a job that I do in order to provide for people. And then it slowly deteriorates them, and they'll slowly start getting more and more sad, broken, because of all the work. And they'll eventually just sit there and be like, why am I working this? And then eventually, when they can't work anymore, it becomes pretty much like what people do when they work out. There has to be a drive. There has to be something in your mind that tells you, I want to continue. That way, even if you fall off, even if you break, even if something bad happens, you need to have something that makes it so that you want to keep going. Because think about it like this. People who play football, if when they break their legs or they get horrible injuries, they instantly try to get right back on the field right after all of that is done. Right after the doctor says, well, you're somewhat better, they try to get right back on the field. I'm not saying that if you don't have a job that makes you want to get right back out there after being hurt, then you're not working a job that you want to do. However, what I'm saying is, if you're working a job and you are sitting there and something minor or a bit major happens, and you're looking at it and you're like, this is my opportunity to quit, and you just go ahead and take it, then what that means is you weren't satisfied with the job at all. You were actually just sitting there waiting for something to happen, waiting for something to go wrong so you could go ahead and go like, I'm going to go pursue something else because I don't want this. And that's pretty much what money focus means to me. Because if I go and be like, everything here is mine, I've bought everything. All the stuff that I bought is a display of how important money is. Then let me ask, when you earned that money, did you feel satisfied? Or did you look at it and go like, this is it? I'm going to be able to do this? If you're not looking at your money and you're not looking at it like, I'm satisfied I got this money, I'm happy with the payment, I'm happy with the job, I'm happy with all of this, or at least even on a fundamental level, if you're not looking at it and you're like, this is worth it, then it's not worth it.
Those are great points. So I hear what you're saying. Is it worth it? But let me ask you this question. Let me challenge you a little bit on this question, right? So say you want to work a job that fulfills you, right? That makes you happy. But say that job is not available. Say that job's not available right now, and you have to work to get to that job. But you have a son, right? Or as a son. My thoughts on it as a father, especially as a Black father, is that you need to work, right? You need to work, if anything, to show your son that everything may not be beautiful or what I want it to be right now, but I'm doing this to get to where I need to get to, so that one day I may be able to have that job. I talk to you boys a lot about mastering multiple different skill sets, right? Knowing multiple different things, so that this job may not be what I want it to be, but it's going to give me a skill set that maybe one day I may need, or somebody else may need, that I may be able to teach or provide to. So I agree with you that it should be something to get outside of the focus on money. It should be something that fulfills you. But I would also add that part to it too.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, if you're working for skills, if you have a job, because it's pretty much like a degree, for instance. If you're looking for a job and you're pretty much like, I'm trying to get this job, but I need this certain skill set, I need this certain degree. I'm not saying don't take it. Do it. Do it just as almost as eagerly as you would do your other job. Because do you know what? Because what's going to happen is they're going to look at how eager you were to do the job that leading up to it, and they'll be like, there's definitely an opportunity for you here. Because, for instance, I, for one, wanted to be a chef. And my idea for being a chef was, well, I'm going to go ahead and every single summer, I'm going to go out, get a part-time job at some restaurant. Rather it's a fast food, rather it's an actual restaurant. I go out and go there, and then for the entire summer, I work there. And then afterwards, I go ahead and stop. So I could go ahead and learn as much as I can from one restaurant to another, so I could go ahead and have it on my resume. That way, when I finally do go like, all right, I'm able to go ahead and work at my own restaurant. I know how business works. I know how the food process works. I know how to instruct others in order to tell people. I'm not saying that you don't go into your job that's leading up to your great job. I'm saying do exactly that. Go into your job just as energetic and as happy as you are, as if you've gotten it already. Because the thing about it is, I believe in one thing. When God, and for anybody who's not religious out there, I do apologize, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Because the thing about it is, in my honest opinion, is I look at it like this: God has it already in plan. If you're already working the part that that's leading up to the next part, then you best praise God. You best act like it has already happened. Act as if it's just right there in front of your face, and you work like an absolute, like you're so happy that you got it. Because if you work like that, then it will be sure that it will, because in that way they can, oh, ethic isn't right. Well, you're not as, you're not always here on time. You're not as energetic. You act like you don't want it. They look at you and they'll be like, you look exactly like the type of person we want. You're energetic. You're always here. You're always ready. You're always working, even when we ask you not to. You're always here for it. And that means that you're perfect for this position. You're perfect for this. You're perfect for that. You'll climb up the ladder, and then when you finally get there, you'll be as happy as the changes will be almost minuscule, because of the fact they'll look at it and they'll be like, this is the, because you'll look at it and you'll be like, I was this happy before. I always acted this happy before, but now that I'm actually here, now I'm more happy, I'm more excited, I'm more energetic about it. And they can look at it and they'll be proud of it. Because the thing about it is, to act like, to look at a job, you must because that goes back into what I said. When you want a job that you actually treasure, that makes it so that you wake up in the morning and you're sitting there and you're like, I'm happy. I'm satisfied with the money I'm paid, with the amount of work I do, with all the passion I have for it. Then what that means is you're sitting there and you're actually satisfied. And there's nothing in there that can destroy it. Even if they say, well, we're not going to give it to you right now, or you have to wait. You can keep working like that. And then even if they go like, well, I don't think, there'll be someone who looks at your work ethic and they'll be like, no, you honestly deserve it, because you did all this even when you didn't have to. It is a work ethic. It's pretty much the opposite of money in a way. You put in as much effort as you can, and then what happens is when the effort comes back to you, somebody's going to notice, because they're going to be like, you helped this company grow like this. You deserve everything that you're going to get.
Teddy said, because if you're grateful for the few, God will make you master of the multitude. That is true. So let me ask you a question. I have you, and you were study psychology. Psychologists believe, right? You're taught that the brain is divided into two sides, right? There's that analytical side, right, where we do a lot of thinking and rationalizing. And then there's the relational side, right? The holistic side. Things that help you to appreciate the world around you. And as fathers and sons, right? I have always believed that you have to nurture that holistic side. Because here's the thing, getting back to everything that we're talking about in this, peer pressure, lack of positive role models, and everything else. The analytic side makes you see things a certain way, right? Analytical people are looking for conformity, right? They're looking for regularity. They're looking for some order, some structure, some understanding. They want a meaning. They want a cognitive understanding, and that is great. I'm a very analytical person. But if you really look at it, if the father does not, and it's not just the father, parent does not allow room for that relational side. And I'm gonna give you an example. If I tell you all the time that everything is a rule, you have to put that dish in this sink this way. You have to eat your meals a certain way. Your food cannot touch. If I tell you that every day you have to wear this school uniform, I'm teaching you a very linear, mechanical, isolated, regimented way. What do you think if I only focus on the analytical? What are some of the things that you think can happen to a son?
Well, eventually they'll probably grow to possibly despise you, because the thing about it is, the thing about being an analytical person is, sure, the rules are great and everything, but the thing about it is half of the thing you can have. It's like this: you can go ahead and build. You can analyze everything. Everything does have a pattern. Everything has a schedule. Everything has a place. However, the thing about it is the world runs. Humans are not. That's a robot's mind of thinking. Humans are people who have the thing that makes us human, or rather, the thing that makes us living beings is our need for interactions. Humans have it. Animals have it. Everything we do has purpose, but it also needs an ability to grab other people and bring them in, because you require relationships. So if a father is pretty much like being a robot and going like, that's supposed to be here, that's supposed to be there, that's supposed to be here, this is supposed to go in this place, this is what is required, then the question is, what am I supposed to do? You're pretty much telling me there is no room for any sort of relationship. There is no room for any sort of misunderstanding. There is no room for error. There is only do this, do that. You're the only person who needs to do this. Everyone has to fall into line. Then there's no person going like, man, I found out a better way to do this. I found a better way to do that.
There you go. There you go.
Because
so now
the thing about it is there's
important. No freedom, right? There's no variation. There's no learning. There's no ability for you. What makes me think that because of the way I do something, or I was taught to do something, I give you an example. We were taught to do math different than the way that kids do math today. Does that make the math that you do, the computer-based math that you do, less effective? Not at all. Matter of fact, in many ways, you can do things faster than what we did and the methods that we used.
Mm-hmm.
And so flexibility is important. It is important. Improvisation is important. All of these things are important. I ask this question because I see a lot of fathers say, well, you gotta be on them. I do agree that you have to have an analytical, but you also have to have the rational side. That's why I brought up the psychology of it, right? Of the two-part brain, because the brain works two ways. We spend so much time as fathers and sons. If we spend too much time being regimented, militaristic, right? Then we take away all of that improvisation. We take away all of that ability to learn and to be free. And I think that that's important. I want to get to this other list because I think we hit generally all of this stuff right here. Pardon me, my back is still bothering me pretty bad, but I want to hit this other thing here. Let's see let's see other comments that we got. See, Teddy had here. Your mother said something. Great part, Sean Anthony. Being controlling is a way people push away necessary human sacrifice when iterations. Okay, and then there's a massive basic need missing.
Exactly, because the thing about it is, even when somebody is pushing away, even if somebody is continuing to stay close, the thing about it is everybody wants closeness. Even when in times when they need absolute perfection, they're still desiring to be close. They're still desiring a place to go ahead and go back to. Because even if they're like, well, I don't need that right now, eventually you're going to need it. Even an introvert, which I can say I am, and I am a heavy introvert. Most introverts need human interaction. We could go out and be like, I'm here. Look, everybody, and then be happy for a bit. But eventually we're going to want to be like, all right, that's enough human interaction. Too little human interaction can devastate someone's mind, mental health, and makes them start questioning what exactly they're doing. They need relationships are needed. That is the basic thing. Even God said to Adam, it is not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve. Because if it was good for us to be alone, then there would be no other sex. There would be no other people.
And that goes right into what I'm talking about right now, right? So I want to get into the things that can help make relationships between sons and
we still
fathers
understood it
better, right? Because I do believe that there are requirements. There are things that we have to have in order for things to get better, right? Spirituality being one. How important is it for a father and son to talk about spirituality?
Ooh, well, that's gonna be that. This is definitely a topic because that part of spirituality is something that most people honestly might tell you is not needed in the household, because some people believe that all they need is morals. All they need is to know what's right and wrong, and spirituality has nothing to say in it. But I would say in most households, especially in most black house in most black households, it is very important, because the thing about it is spirituality is the equivalent of hope in the community. And honestly, whenever I say hope, I always hear a certain quote that said that a very smart person said. Because the thing about it is, hope does not put food on the table. Hope does not put people in jobs. It does not put people in places. But spirituality is the thing that connects most people. It's what grabs people and goes, hey, I'm the same as you. I'm pretty much in your socials. I'm in your class. Because spirituality, like for instance, going to church. When you go to church, you meet a lot of people there who believe, who have different problems, have different motives, have reasons for being there, and it connects you with them. And being able to connect with that spiritualness in that community not only helps you relationship wise, but it also it also helps you as a person, because everybody needs something to believe in. Everybody needs something to hold on to that's going to tell them that it's okay. And while most people might be like, that's stupid, that's not something, everybody needs it. For instance, when you were a child, you're going to need an imaginary friend. You're going to need something to believe in for that year. You're going to need a mascot. You're going to need something that's going to grab your attention and tell you, this is why you should be interested. This is why every single year is going to end with presents. This is why every single year is going to have some sort of candy. And it's like, without that, you don't have any inspiration. You don't have anything that's going to tell you that it's okay. And you're pretty much looking at, and you would be best just looking at dice and rolling it, because that's pretty much what you're believing in at that point. But spirituality is something that connects you to your ancestors. It connects you to your family. It connects you back all the way through history, because you go, my ancestors believed in this. My mother believed in this. My great grandmother believed in this.
So what you're saying is that spirituality gives you a sense of self.
Exactly.
But let me push on that as it comes down to black fathers and black sons. Black men are taught to be tough, to have thick skin, to push in spite of. That by definition means it is very hard for them to submit. Spirituality, understanding of God, means you must submit to God. When all else fails, when nothing else works, when everything you've done doesn't seem to do anything, what do you base your hope and faith upon? I believe, as a father, that spirituality is very important to teach to your son and to talk about to your son. Because if I teach you that you can't submit, you got to be tough, you got to keep going, you got to keep pushing in spite of. If I never teach you that sometimes no matter what you do, it may not work the way you want to, and you must go to on your knees. You must lean on your spirituality. You must lean on your relationship with God. Because as a father,
the deciding factor in those
there
decisions.
you go. Because as a father, I have to do the same thing. And if I can teach you that without thinking that only you can solve a problem. Spirituality is also the idea of being selfless, being humble, understanding that I am not the end and be all. But I do see fathers teach their sons that a man is the final authority in everything. That's not so.
Mm-hmm.
That's not so. You can want and desire many things, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work that way. Submission to God should be taught. It is a necessity that I believe that a father must show to his son and teach to his son, and that his son must teach to his children.
Mm-hmm. And that is indeed a very necessary thing to be taught, because the thing about it is, if you don't know how to submit to God, then then you'll definitely have a problem when all else fails and you need to talk to God, because then the question will come up: how do I exactly tell God that I'm sorry? How do I profess my how do I tell him about my sins? How do I tell him what I need right now? And if you don't understand any of that because you have never talked to your father, your mother, or any person in the family, then you could be manipulated. Because the thing about it is, out here in, I'm not going to say most churches these days, there are very few churches that will actually help the Black community. Others will try to go ahead and pretty much grab you and shake everything out of you, because they realize you're a lost soul looking for some sort of help or reason. And like we just said, the Black community doesn't have fathers, it doesn't have certain people that will help you in those times of need. And as a result, they can prey on you as much as possible and extort you for every single thing that you have.
My mother
all
said,
in belief that you'll be saved.
When we teach our children, they are the ones who have the answers. They make poor decisions instead of accepting. They don't know what to do. There are certain times that you're not going to know what to do.
And that's what we need to teach.
I'll give you an example.
Teach people.
I am in utter pain tonight, but I don't know what to do about it. I have to lean, because at the end of the day, I can take pain reliever. I can take medicine. I can go to the doctor. They can prescribe more. But if it doesn't alleviate the problem, who do I go to? What I could get into a fatalistic, nihilistic mentality, which some people do because they have never been taught that spirituality concept. They've never been taught to lean on God. So when they don't have anybody, they lean to their own understanding, and it usually ends badly. There is no hope. They don't have hope because I've done everything that I can do. So it's so important to understand that sometimes you can't do anything but lean on God. Let's move on to that next part there. Knowledge, and you kind of talked about that.
Yes, that was a Dick Gregory quote about hope. If you don't know it, go ahead and Google Hope and Dick Gregory, and you'll learn a little bit of something.
Baba Dick Gregory was a very intelligent person. He's another person that fits into this knowledge of history and self. Now, I'm going to tell you, you already know, I believe that it is so important to have a knowledge of history and self. If a person doesn't believe that. I don't think, as an African American, as a black man, it is so important because let me tell you, you can't name a successful black man out of history who didn't have knowledge of self, who didn't understand where he came from. When Malcolm X came out of jail, he started to study about his people. He became a Pan-Africanist. Dr. King talked about our history, right? He understood our history. That's why he understood what should have been present for black people. Marcus Garvey understood our history, right? Nat Turner, who people will argue, well, he went and they had an uprising, but Nat Turner had an uprising because he understood, you are denying me the things that my ancestors, the freedom that we should have. Toussaint Louverture, who pushed for the Haitian Revolution, had a knowledge of history and understood we shouldn't be subjected in this way. When you as a son don't know the history of your father's father or your father, then what can you look to? What can you look to?
Even farther than that, if you don't know what your father or what your great grandfather or any of your any people or any of your ancestors did, not only that, but you won't know about the evils that you have to rebuke. You won't know about anything that you have to deal with.
Great point.
And you'll forever be confused with all the generational curses and all the generational problems you have to deal with.
Great point. I do agree. That's a very astute point. If you have drug problems in your family, if you have certain illnesses in your family that you know you shouldn't be indulging in certain things because it will harm you, right? Or maybe it will take a hold on you in a way that it wouldn't take a hold on others, right? Those generational curses, right? That womanizing, right? That's a part of it too, that gets pushed to the black community. If your great grandfather was a womanizer and your father's father and the father was a womanizer, and womanizing is taught to you, then
that's a generational curse you have to overcome.
There you go. But if you don't look beyond that and understand, well, why was this way? Why did they feel this way? What was going on at that time? This is why sometimes it's not just about your family, it's about your culture. I had a conversation with a young man in the Navy a couple of years ago, in which he said, well, everybody in my family is a player. Everybody. And I said, well, why do you say that? Where does that come from? And he was like, well, my grandfather, this, and that. One of them was a pimp, this, that, and this. And I said, well, have you ever looked at where they're from? And it took about 6-7 months before he came back to me and said, man, I was asking my mom, and I found out that what it was is that his great-great-great-grandfather had children with multiple different women, right? Because he had been a slave. And he had been taught that multiple different women was the way to go. So what did he teach his sons?
Multiple different women is the way to go.
But if we don't identify these history and knowledge of self, we get trapped into these, like you just said, that's what's such an astute point, generational curses. The way to avoid it is to know who you are. Mm-hmm. It's a good point. Let me ask you another one. We talked about racism, so I'm gonna jump past that one. Time management. What is your thoughts on a son and how a father teaches his son, or how a son and a father interact in regards to time management? What does that mean to you? What does that time management part mean to you?
Well, time management could be one of two ways. The first way is that the time that you have to do something. In other words, you need the father teaching his son that you have only so much time to do stuff before eventually it's just something you can't do anymore because this is the way it's got to be or this amount of time. Otherwise, you either don't get paid, you either don't get rewarded, or it just ends up being completely pointless in the end. And then the other time management is how much time you have to spend with your loved ones, which we have learned over the past few years that there's not much time in that you can spend with some before you don't know what will happen. And as a result, time management to me kind of means both the time that you have to do a certain task and the time you have to spend with family. You have to learn that the time you spend with family, even in the most even if you're angry with them, even if you're sad, even if you don't want to, the time you spend with them is the most important, because if you don't spend too much time with them, then you never know when the time will be up and you won't be able to spend time with them anymore because you'll have something else you have to do, or because they just won't be here anymore. Or as well as being able to go ahead and look at time management and be like, this is the amount of time you have to do for this task, because that's important. Because if you don't teach your son that there's a deadline, that there is a time when it will not matter anymore, or you won't get paid as much, or you won't be able to get as many points, they'll eventually just think that there's no limit on any time and that they can just do whatever. And that will inevitably impact you because you'll have to take care of them, because now they think that they have the time to do anything. They'll tell you, well, I don't have to get in college right now because I can do that whenever. I don't have to submit this paper right now because I can do that whenever. I don't have to go to work today because I could just go back. I can go to work whenever and
I can be lazy.
The same.
I can be a buster. I don't have to do anything. Shout out to there are 50-year-old men still out here thinking that they players and hustling. Time management in an African-American relationship between a father and a son is very important. You can't get to the level of mastery without having time management understanding. Time management is just as simple as reading a book, allocating time to learn. Time management is picking up a skill. Time management is going to go read a recipe. Time management is what time do I allocate towards this? And I'm going to tell you, men in general fail at time management statistically. But I will also say that as African-American men, it is essential that we have an understanding and a mastery of time management, because as I tell you all, between the ages of 20, and that's just being general, 20 to 30, 10 years, a decade is a long time to time manage and get a degree, get multiple degrees, master whatever you're going to do, work to make money, put money aside. I truly believe that if we as people, as fathers, understood, and I had to learn this, I'm not going to say I knew this immediately. If we understood that we allow our sons that period of 10 years, just like you allowed them to grow up in your home, just as they were born and they live with you. If you spent that 20 years, that 10 years, 20 to 30, teaching your son time management, go to work, go to school,
get up at a certain hour.
Make
sure
yourself
that you at least
better.
Know this.
Right? And it ain't like you don't teach them. But I will say there is a part of that is independent to the person. You have to want to do it.
Exactly. If you don't have any drive, if you don't have any passion for it, then eventually, like I said, once you get the chance to slip up and you won't try to recover. You'll instantly try to find a way out.
You cannot be a good employee without time management. You can't be a good supervisor, manager, leader, business owner without time management. There are times you don't want to do anything, but you have to do it because that's the allotted time to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an important thing that I think a lot of us don't get. Time management also, Sean Anthony, and I can disagree with me if you do, if you want to, comes down to being stubborn. Being stubborn. I don't care what argument I have with you. I don't care what disagreement I have with you. I don't care if you dislike what I'm doing. If it's for the betterment of me and mine, I'm going to do it. Despite your anger, despite whatever you think, because as I tell you all, no matter how many times you argue with somebody, that bill is not going to go away.
Yeah, I do agree with that for the most part. However, I also do believe in one more thing, because as much as time management is a thing, you also have to make room for what we said earlier. You have to make room for relationships and intervention. You got to make sure
that's a part of time management, though, Sean.
Exactly.
Anthony.
You got to make sure that what you're doing is the best way. And if somebody's angry with you or something, you got to see, why are you angry? Are you angry because there was some way I could have done it better? Is there something that I'm missing?
I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you, and to all you all out there, why this is important. As a young man, I watched men date women, right, who wanted everything, and the brother would go to work trying to get the money to get the things that the woman wanted. And he would work and he would work and he would work. I watched it, right? Over and over again, time and time again. And she would take and take and take and take. And this brother spent 5, 6, 7 years with some of these women going down this path. And that by the time one of them, I won't speak his name, by the time one of them was 30 years old, he had nothing. Nothing to his name, and the woman left him. And what he did was he snuffed himself. Because here's the thing. You can manage your time positively and negatively.
Mm-hmm.
You can do things that you think is fulfilling somebody else, but in the end of it, time management is about you. How you use the time. And hopefully you're going to use it positively and not be stuck. Because, yeah, you could go out and try to manage time to have relationships and things like that. But you better understand, is this the time for this relationship? Exactly. Am I ready for this relationship?
And then
should I be focused on that?
Yep. And then you have to see, is there time for me to stop and actually see how this is affecting me? Because if you see, because the thing about it is, in that type of story, because I'm pretty sure there's multiple people out there with a relationship like that. You have to have time to go ahead and be like, okay, let me stop for a moment. Let me see just what this is doing. If it's doing more harm than good, let me see if there's other alternatives I can take. Let me see what I'm doing here. And if you go ahead and look at it and see, yeah, there's better ways I can do this. This is something not worth pursuing or something like that, then yes, you can go ahead and get off of that.
Actually, your mother's thing here. See, now I will tell you that everybody is a dreamer. God created all of us to dream. But here's the issue, right? Some of us, we dream and we don't move because we're moving in somebody else's dream. We're facilitating somebody else's desire and not our own. And men have to guard against that, because very often as young men, that's what we do. We live the dream of somebody else. We follow that whole thing earlier about peer pressure. We go, and what I asked you guys the question recently about what is a weak man? What do you consider to be a weak man? And I told you all, my perception was it's a man that can't stand on his own. A man who ain't stubborn enough, because stubborn is not always a bad thing, to say, no, this is not what I'm going to do. That don't make sense. Right? Don't follow the group. Follow God and follow what you know to be right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at these last two parts here. Actually, I got another one that I wanted to add in last week. Diet and nutrition. And you having cooking all the time, how important is it for you to understand the dynamics of your father when it comes down to your diet and nutrition?
Well, seeing as how I've been cooking for y'all for probably like the better half of a couple of years, I would say that it is incredibly important. Because the thing about it is to understand, like, for instance, with mom has a certain type of diet that she has to follow. And whenever she diverts off of that, it hurts her and it hurts her stomach, and she's not able to digest or something. And as a result, it's and then the same happens with you. It can't be too salty, and it can't have too many things in it. It can't be too spicy either. The thing about it is understanding a diet is incredibly important, because if you don't understand their diet, then you don't understand the problems they have to deal with, and then you're not having the whole story. Because the thing about it is having a good diet, even if you're a father cooking for their son or a son cooking for their father, understanding what your parent needs to eat, what they have to eat, and what they can't eat will not only make it so that their life is a lot easier, but it'll also make it so that they don't have to worry about when you cook or something and they can't eat it, or they feel like they're offending you because they just can't eat it. And as a result, you have to find a way around it. You've got to somehow figure out, how can I deal with this diet? Because the father still has to work. The father still has to do all this on top of what they normally do. However, they also need to have a way to rely on, because even if they don't want to eat something that's healthy, even if they don't want to eat anything that might help them, it is very important for them to understand this is a dietary need, because if you don't eat this, you'll be in pain, you'll be this, and it shows them, yeah, they care, and then they'll be able to continue on what they're doing. It's less about dieting, it's more about basic care and understanding, in my honest opinion.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I agree with everything that you just said right there, but I'm gonna add something else in there. Genetics. Mm-hmm. Genetics. If the father deals with high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, if that is in your family, and you know that your father has these issues, that they have problems with certain foods, not just your father, your mother can have it too. But I'm specifying and looking at fathers and sons tonight. But when you know that these things are in your blood or in your genes, then you should learn to be a little bit more apprehensive towards them, right? I don't want to get into drinking because maybe my father was an alcoholic, right? I don't want to use drugs because maybe my father did drugs and it hurt him physically. Or maybe it's something as simple as too much salt in your diet, right? That I know my father has high blood pressure, right? I know my father has these issues. So why would I, in turn, play around and spin the wheel, right, to wind up having those issues too? So I do believe that fathers and sons, we've sat down at times where I've shown you how to cook a particular dish or whatever, right? And I tell you, hey, this is what you put in it. Don't put no more than this in it. If this is what you could do, you can add this if you want this kind of taste. I think those things are important for fathers to do. I can't say that you can do it all the time, But I will say that it is important to teach, right? Because nutrition is a huge thing. And to talk to you about it, your diet, your nutrition, and vice versa. Hey,
And
Dad,
even
I
if you
found,
don't know it, it's good to teach it, because not only will you be learning, but you'll be able to learn with your son or or your daughter or anybody or any of your kin. Because the thing about it is, you understanding what they need and they understanding what you need is a perfect way to be like, yeah, we should be doing this instead. We should be doing this. This should be more. This is more helpful.
I'm gonna take this off of here. We're gonna talk about mastery and identifying purpose, right? That's the last part. We'll talk about, but I don't need that up in order to do it. I believe that everybody in this world is born with a purpose, something that God put them here to do. That's my belief. And I also believe that you have a limited amount of time to master some of those things. And thirdly, or tertiarily, I believe also that God, ultimately, you need to understand that God is the person or the thing that gave you those gifts and purpose that you are supposed to master. Do you disagree with any of those?
No, not necessarily.
So when it comes down to mastery, right? When I talk about mastery to you all, what's your thoughts on that? What do you think I'm saying when I say mastery?
A mastery, I think that you're trying to say that you should be able to at least understand something, even if it's something small, at a fundamental level, so that your understanding is as good as someone else's, so that you can go ahead and talk about it as well as communicate about it. And even if somebody takes away the ability to learn more about it, you at least have the ability to teach others at a fundamental, like, you understand.
Yes, I those are absolute. There's one other thing with that though. What does mastery provide for you?
It provides an understanding that can't be taken away, and that can also be beneficial to not only you but possibly the next generation, because that mastery won't go away, especially if you teach it in a certain way. That mastery will always stay with you, and it'll stay with your future generations as well.
The Bible tells you that my people perish from a lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, right? And not mastery and understanding your purpose and working towards those things has always been my belief that it's a protection too. I can't tell you how many times in the military that somebody came and said something to me haphazardly because they hadn't mastered that skill, but they were faking as if they did. And had people gone and followed that example, people would have been hurt or they would have died. And the fact is, mastering a skill set or skill set protects you, teaches you, right? To know, hey, that don't sound right. No, that's not how that's supposed to be done. And having the understanding and the knowledge, right? So that you are working in your purpose. Your purpose can help to protect and help others, right? It can keep people safe. It can stop things from being damaged. It can elevate you. So all of those things you said are absolutely true. But when you add an addendum to that, it's for your own edification. It's for your own protection. That moment that you pick up that book or you go learn that skill, right? It could be the thing that keeps you in this world. It could be the thing that keeps somebody else safe. Because people lie about mastery. Men lie. Men lie. Right? They'll tell you, oh man, I know how to do that. And then they go poke a hole in the wall, hit a pipe, hit
And then
electric
that's a
cable.
bunch of money that somebody's got to pay.
Or would you trust a mechanic to work on your vehicle, or some dude who you don't know who just wants to say, oh, I got it, man. I'll fix your brakes for you.
I mean, depends on the day.
You say depends on the what?
Depends these days. I mean, is he doing it for like $25 a minute? Because if so,
but say if you know how to bleed brakes, how to replace things on the car, you know it, but you just don't have the time to do it, or you don't want to do it, but you understand it. It's better to have that mastery, that understanding, than to let somebody who doesn't have it get up there and put something or do something to your car, and then you go run off the side of the road to your death.
Well, I could probably just go ahead and scream out the window discount as
you
I
go
off the
crash
hill.
and burn. Yeah, I'm sure that God will hopefully respect that as you go on to the other side. All right, we've been on. I try to do these about an hour and a half on purpose because there's a lot to cover and subjects to cover. And we don't have a lot of people in here tonight, and I don't really mind that because, as I said, I'm not doing 100%. But is there anything else that you think we should talk about in these last few minutes in regards to Black fathers and sons?
Well, I think I do have one thing. If they want to see more of the Phillips father and son, as well as the mother, they should probably subscribe, like, share, because we'll be here for as long as need be. Because by the looks of this world, there's a lot of people who need to learn about their history, need to learn about everything that's going on in this world, and they need to learn how the past connects with their future. And as a result, that's why this family is here, and that is why this network is here. Other than that, technically, I guess not.
So we talked about a lot tonight. We talked about time management. We talked about money. We talked about all of these things. One thing that we did not talk about, and I think that is another part of Black fatherhood and sons, is that ego. Ego. Black men tend to feel like they have to work extremely hard, and I will be honest with you, in most cases they do, to reach a certain level of success. And we teach our sons to work extremely hard to reach those levels of success. One of the things that comes with that is an ego. Ego, contrary to popular belief, is not always a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Ego can be just simple confidence in the fact that I've learned what I learned, I know what I know. But it needs to be taught, the difference between confidence and unsolicited ego. Somebody who just feels that they deserve something or that there's something because of who they're related to, who they know, based on things that they have not earned themselves.
That is a very big problem in the world we live in currently. A lot of people got egos, even though they don't know a single thing. They just are out there going like, I am the end all be all. Meanwhile, when you get them in a room with a smart person, they have no freaking idea what the heck they're talking about or what they're doing. And then people go like, so you mean to tell me your ego is just a facade that you put on that makes everybody believe that you're something? In reality, you're not really anything.
Unvalidated ego is a killer. It's a killer. Ego is a killer of black men in gangs, on the street, in jobs. Because what happens is you get men, and if you don't teach your sons this, they can fail. Men tend to it's a pecking order. And they tend to, hey man, I'm the best at this. They talk smack, right? For a more orthodox word, they talk smack, right? I'm blacker, I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm this than you, right?
Mhm.
And nothing you tell me gonna make me think otherwise, right? And that becomes a detriment when you're dealing with men, and it comes down to something that can harm people. It speaks only from experience. If I'm sitting and talking to you and you're telling me, no, this is the way that it has to be done because it's the way I believe it has to be done, and there's no fact, there's no reality to that. You're just standing on ego. We have to teach our sons to push back on that. Well, show me why that's the right way to do it. Right? Talk to me about it. Because that pride, that shit, brother just put, that pride coming before a fall, folks wind up getting people hurt and can completely mess up your situation. You talked about McDonald's earlier. If you go out there, you working in McDonald's and you flipping burgers, and Bob come in and say, I'm the best burger flipper in the world. Because what I do is I half cook it. I do it this way. And you know that that's not health conscious, that that's not right. You have a choice there. Fold to Bob's ego or stand up on your own confidence and say, no, that's not that. No, bro. That's not the way we're supposed to be doing it. So I believe that that's a part that we left out of there that needed to be talked about, because that is a huge problem in our community. Fathers, sons deal with that all the time, right? Fathers who teach their sons about sports, right? Basketball, whatever. I was the best. Yeah, but now, brother, you 59 years old. This kid's 18.
Yeah, but the thing that people need to remember is pride comes before the fall, but jealousy comes right before that push. Because there will always be that person who wants you to fall.
And I was just going to say that. A lot of times it comes down to jealousy. And jealousy comes down to the fact of time management, because that person didn't spend the time to master a skill set that they needed to master, but you did. And so now their ego can't allow them to believe that somebody like you could be better at something than they are. This happens even with father and son relationships, right? How he's still my son. He's a lawyer, he's a doctor, whatever. And if you let that jealousy eat at you, because I believe every man should want his son to be better than him.
But that's my belief. Do not share that sentiment.
They do not. So I thought that's something that we should talk about. We should briefly touch on too. All right, so we got about 5 minutes, Poppy. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, I guess we could go ahead and talk about the jealousy in the Black community today, because the thing about it is the jealousy in the Black community is more the thing that destroys the parent-kid relationship. Because what happens is because it happens even now. Notice how even in today's world, whenever somebody's like, we need to raise the minimum wage, we need to fix this problem, we need to fix this, the past generation appears and says, well, I didn't have it that easy. I didn't have it like that. I had to deal with this. I had to deal with that. And then they go ahead and get jealous of the possibility of creating a new and better thing. And as a result, they get angry and they don't want to, and they hinder progress more than they continue it, because for some reason, instead of having it written down in history that, oh, this generation did better because of your help, you'd rather have it written down in history that everything stayed exactly the same because you didn't want to make it any easier. You didn't want to put training wheels on. You didn't want to help the next generation. You wanted to instead hinder them as much as possible with your own bias, racism, or whatever you want to, or whatever you grew up and held on to through that generation, because that's just it's just what you want.
Your brother.
Yes,
Your
indeed.
Still
That is one of my own quotes, and if you want to use it, you gotta have my face.
Oh my God. Well, Poppy, I appreciate you being on here tonight. I appreciate you you all trying to rush back to get on here and do it. I was not going to do this tonight. I'm be really honest with you.
Yeah, originally, if we weren't going to be able to get back here, we were going to do a real old style type of thing, and I was going to do it off of someone's phone as we come home. Yeah, it was going to be a very would have been very interesting. That's for sure.
Hey, I want to say tonight to all of you all who may watch this later, I appreciate all the prayers and people who came forth. I've been this has been
I don't
hard.
see that pictures doesn't look like me. And your name isn't Sean Anthony.
It's been a hard day. But I want to thank everybody for who watches this and joins us. Please opine, leave your opinions and conclusions and things that you might want to interject in the conversation. Even after we're off during the recording, we will definitely appreciate it, and it will definitely be something that we will address. I am greatly appreciative of the support from the Erudition Network, and I ask that you all continue to support us as we go forward in this purpose and this mission to try to inform and to teach, because it is important. It is important. Sean Anthony, I'm going to let you have the last statements before we close out here.
Well, today has been a very well show, as Teddy has given me the round of applause, because I know I'm just too good. But anyway, the fact is the father, the relationships in the Black community are a struggle. However, the parent kin relationships in the Black community are even more, are suffering even more. And with all that's going on in this world, you have to really understand that not everyone wants it to be better. Not everyone wants you to have better possibilities. They want you to be just as hindered as them, but with better results. But the thing about it is, you can't have better results without fixing some things. But the thing about it is, everybody wants to hold on to the past. Everybody wants to go, don't forget, don't forget. And the thing about it is, I do agree. Everybody needs to understand that you cannot forget. God has to cast his what you've done into a sea of forgetfulness, because he's God. He has to remember a lot of things, and you have probably done a very, very many bad things in your life, but you're human. Forgetting is not a possibility. You will never use up all of your memory in your lifetime. That is not possible, because you live a short life in the grand scheme of things. So forgetting is not something that you should do. You should remember. You should learn. That's the only way that society can progress, because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. If you don't know what certain dictators or certain people did back in the day, how will you know how to stay away from it? If you don't know what racism is, how can you learn to not commit it? You must learn. You must continue to learn. And even if you think that, well, it doesn't matter anymore, it will at some point. Everything comes back. And when it comes back, you best not be caught ignorant, because like Dad said, God's people will die from a lack of knowledge. You do not want to have something come back because and kill you because you lack the knowledge that you needed in that exact moment. Don't perish for a lack of knowledge. Learn and continue to learn, even if it hurts. It's to learn it. At least you learn it now, so that if it does come back, it is not as painful a blow as it was before. Everyone needs to learn, and that is exactly what this show is for. And then, except we don't try to hit you with that that haymaker. We just slight shoulder whoever you need.
I guess I didn't want you to
teach you.
Yes, try to make it easy for you. All right, my son. Great show. Next week I'll have Elliot on. God help us all.
Indeed.
We'll see what Elliot has to say some of these topics, but I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Technically, Elliot already on. He back there behind you.
I don't know. Elliot's a weirdo. He keeps putting that picture. I keep putting it laying it down. He keeps putting it up. Like he's staring over my back with a goofy smile. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for your support. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to try to get some rest. I thank you again. And to my son, as always, I love you and thank you for coming on. Let's get out of here.
All right. Deuces, people.